Good Thursday morning to you. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Lauren Lemanchek. Developing at the state capitol, a handful of Medicaid programs will be frozen across the state, part of a move by Governor Walz to address fraud. Much of that fraud was exposed by a KARE 11 investigation into how fake services are billed. Audrey Russo has the latest.
Yeah, that's really where this all began. Housing and addiction programs were billing millions of dollars to Medicaid for services that the providers never gave. So now the state is going to pay more than $2 million to a third-party auditor to keep an eye out for suspicious and questionable claims. Now, any claims that the auditor flags will be sent back to the Department of Human Services, and then that agency will make the final call on whether or not to pay. Now, payments to 14 programs will be frozen for 90 days. We spoke to an organization that relies on Medicaid, and its CEO agrees fraud needs to stop, but says these payment delays will have consequences.
You can't expect an organization that provides these types of services to have the cash flow to support their day-to-day needs for 30, 60, 90 days.
Now, the state also received federal approval to end the housing stabilization program that KARE 11 found was rampant with fraud. Its last day is today. Back to you.
People are scrambling across the country to figure out how to help keep food on the table once SNAP benefits expire. Here at home, the Washington County Board is convening for a meeting right now to consider emergency assistance. They cover cities like Forest Lake, Mahtomedi, and Lake Elmo. The board is expected to vote on a resolution to give more funding, short-term funding, to local food shelves and a food bank during this time of mounting community need. Take a look at this plan to reach nearly a dozen organizations serving Washington County communities. A total of $250,000 would go to help them if the resolution passes. And the goal is for that money to trickle down and help locals facing food insecurity. The one-time funding could be used for food and grocery purchases, staff time and transportation, really anything to help meet a growing demand. From now until 2 weeks after the shutdown ends, there will be a mobile food bank at MSP for federal workers. Those employees, including TSA agents and air traffic controllers, are currently working without pay. Second Harvest Heartland, the SANA Foundation, and the MAC are partnering to provide food boxes for affected federal workers at the airport. Workers are able to come and get a box of food every Wednesday as long as the shutdown continues.
I think it's important that people also understand that the collaboration and the partnership that is going on in the community right now is important, and we're going to need even more of that to weather what is ahead.
Inside each of these boxes is about 20 pounds of shelf-stable items. Local businesses are also stepping up to help families in need. Beginning Monday morning from 7 to 9 o'clock, Hope Breakfast Bar in St. Paul will provide pancake meals to families every day for free.
You just take your food and you're good to go. There's no questions, no qualifiers.
Colonial Food Market, a locally owned grocery store with 3 locations in Minneapolis, is also offering an extra 10% discount to SNAP recipients, as well as free meals for kids.
A single mom with 3 kids might not be able to eat a warm meal because of something that is out of our power.
According to data from the state, the average Minnesotan on SNAP receives roughly $5 per day. The state says almost half of SNAP recipients in Minnesota live outside the metro. This morning, President Trump is returning to Washington after a landmark meeting with China's leader Xi Jinping in South Korea. NBC's Janice Mackey-Freyer reports from Seoul.
This was a high-stakes meeting for both leaders, their first face-to-face in 6 years. It didn't yield the major trade deal announcement, but there were other agreements that in the meantime will knock down trade tensions. Speaking to reporters on Air Force One after the meeting, President Trump said it was amazing, outstanding. He gave it a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10. The meeting lasted an hour and 40 minutes and was described by Chinese officials as being positive. There were some agreements on major issues, like the 20% tariffs the U.S. imposed on Chinese goods over fentanyl are now reduced to 10%. President Trump saying that Xi had promised to do what he could to stop the flow of illicit fentanyl precursors into the United States. China has already resumed purchases of American soybeans after orders had dried up for months. And there appears to be a one-year truce on China's export controls of rare earths, the critical minerals that are used to make everything from laptops to weapon systems. President Trump also confirmed that he will visit China in April and that President Xi will go to the U.S. sometime after. This meeting today setting the stage for a trade deal that will likely take shape over the next 6 months. Janice Mackey-Freyer, NBC News, Seoul.
Back in Washington, Senate Democrats are expected to force a tariff resolution vote today to repeal global tariffs and restore congressional authority over trade. It comes hours after the Senate passed a bipartisan resolution to block President Trump's tariffs on Canada. So far, that measure has not advanced in the House and is unlikely to be brought up this year. Right now, the defense continuing their case in the retrial of the alleged mastermind in the murder of a Twin Cities realtor, Monique Bao. Yesterday, a convicted killer took the witness stand in support of Lyndon Wiggins, but things did not go as planned. Barry Davis is one of two men who's already serving prison time for his involvement in the case. In court, he repeatedly told prosecutors he's innocent, and Wiggins did not hire him to kidnap Bao. But then minutes later, he told Wiggins' defense attorney he was in the room when Bao died and that he drove the truck used to move her body. Davis then admitted he lied under oath. Now prosecutors are making the argument if he's willing to lie about this, he's likely lying about Wiggins' involvement in the case too. This morning, another blow to Minnesota's workforce. Cargill announced yesterday it's laying off 80 employees at its Wayzata office. According to a notice from the State Employment and Economic Development Department, those employees will be paid through December 31st. In a statement, Cargill says the move is part of a restructuring plan announced about a year ago. The layoffs affect employees at Cargill's Wayzata office and are the latest wave of layoffs at Cargill since announcing their plan last December to cut their workforce by 5%. At that time, 475 jobs were eliminated. Cargill is the largest privately held company in the U.S. with a global workforce of about 155,000. Happening tonight, the Cathedral of St. Paul is hosting a special memorial and benefit concert to honor those impacted by the Annunciation shooting. It starts at 7:30 at the Cathedral. It will feature the Cathedral's choir, St. Cecilia's Children's Choir, and the Minnesota Orchestra. Admission to that is free. This morning, a St. Paul man's now facing charges in connection to a spree of vandalism and property damage that targeted pride flags and inclusive displays across St. Paul back in June. 23-year-old George Thomas Floyd was first arrested in July for felony possession of burglary tools. Now he faces 2 more felony charges of first-degree damage to property. According to the new complaint, investigators recovered a trove of evidence from Floyd's phone and used it to connect him to many of the damaged flags and broken windows at businesses that had featured pride displays.
Taking photos of the evidence that he destroyed and also communicated with people regarding his criminal activity. In a way, he was bragging about what he did.
According to the complaint, Floyd sent one of our KARE 11 stories from June to 2 different people and even attended both Pride Weekend and the No Kings rally, where he allegedly heckled someone who he thought was trans. Developing in the last few hours, we're learning 5 new suspects are now in custody in connection to the Louvre heist. That's according to a Paris prosecutor. Earlier this week, 2 other suspects were arrested in the brazen theft. And then yesterday, French prosecutors said those suspects admitted to their involvement. So far, though, the crown jewels have not been found. This morning, Hurricane Melissa is a Category 2 storm finally moving past the Caribbean after days of deadly weather conditions that left a trail of destruction, across Cuba, Haiti, and Jamaica. NBC's George Solis has the latest.
The devastating aftermath of Hurricane Melissa is coming into sharper focus this morning across the Caribbean. From roofs completely ripped off homes to entire towns flooded, aerial tours revealing the level of devastation.
We have no light, we have no water, and we have limited amount of food items. It's like we're cut off from the rest of the world right now.
These before and after satellite images showing the swath of destruction across parts of the country. Our team set out from Kingston to try and reach the town where the hurricane made landfall.
Part of the roadway here covered in mud, bringing traffic to a standstill in some parts. Residents taking it upon themselves to help with the cleanup.
Water inside. We up here, so you have to swim. Yeah.
You had to swim?
Yeah.
Americans David and Carissa told us their belated honeymoon in Montego Bay took a terrifying turn as the hurricane closed in.
It sounded like the roof was going to get ripped off. Like, it was terrifying. I think our number one priority is, just how do we get home? Right now, it's just all up in the air.
They're among the many tourists stranded in Jamaica. Montego Bay's airport sustaining damage. Water seen pouring through the roof of the terminal. The storm also pounding other parts of the Caribbean. In Haiti, the government reporting more than 20 deaths. And in Cuba, where the hurricane made its second landfall, residents now digging out after flash flooding leveled homes.
Stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.